Have you ever felt?
Are you listening?
Hello and welcome to the Business of Influence podcast with me, Leroy Mark. It's brought to you by Style ID Africa. It's a podcast where we give you the news, the views, the reviews, and the interviews, and everything to do with the world of influencer marketing. Now, content creation is such that every content creator waits for a brand to give them a brief, and they try and execute the brief to the best of their ability and the best of their budget. But sometimes, just sometimes, some agencies allow the creators to be the ones who lead the campaigns and sit in the boardrooms and sort of work out how the campaign will work. In today's episode, we chat about creator-led campaigns and creator-led agencies and how the world of experiential marketing is coming from outside right into the room with the content creators. More with this with our guest today. Let's see them.
Hello, my name is Sefiso Hlongwane, but I'm also known as Physics, F-I-Z-I-C-S-S in the streets, and I'm a marketing professional, all things marketing, all things creativity. I'm your guy.
Oh yeah, so my name is Bongani, the proud South African guy, a risk taker, a believer of a successful nation, a dreamer per day, achiever per day, and not on periods. I'm so excited to be here. And what do? I'm a content creator, a digital expert. Let me tell you, I'm the best in the game.
Are you listening? Damn. Yeah. Yeah.
Welcome back to the Business of Influence podcast with me, Leroy Mark. I'm joined in studio by Bongani Baloyi, not that one. No, not that one. And Sefiso Hlongwane, who's known as Physics in the streets, chatting everything content creation and creator-led content. Guys, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
You haven't done a podcast before.
I haven't done a podcast
You're
before.
afraid of...
I'm just so scared. I don't know why.
What's going to happen?
Very frightened. I don't know. People have a lot of opinions about
Well,
what
we
you
were
say.
going to ask you about this particular picture. Now that we have you on camera.
Oh my God.
Because I mean, he's afraid. Like,
Do you see my face drop?
you see, people have things to hide. But thank you so much, Lord, for coming through. I'm really looking forward to our conversation.
Yeah.
So we have a little icebreaker we do here at the BOI, and it's just to get into your mind a bit. You're coming from a meeting, so you need us to
Yes, please.
rewire your
yes,
brain.
Please. Yes,
So
please.
you guys are content creators. You're in the creator economy. You guys work with big brands. You guys are from agencies. You guys really work in the full sort of ecosystem of creativity. Which one would you prefer? It's a small game called this or that. Pitch deck or mood board? Which one seals the deal for you?
Mood board.
Mood board.
Yeah.
Okay.
Check for me.
Pitch deck,
Yeah.
not mood board.
No, not even.
Okay, why not? Because I'm with you. I'm on a mood board. I want to just see the idea.
Swamped with pitch decks. Oh my God.
Well, anyway.
So I think I'm more on finding more reasons to explain myself.
Okay.
Other than, so I tend to over-explain something. So when
Ah.
it's on a pitch deck, it makes so much sense because now you don't have to ask me a lot of questions. Because with the mood board, now you have to try and envision it, but then there's no explanation. So whenever I try to explain the mood board, yes, it does the basic things, but then with the pitch deck, I know you have everything. So there's those people who like to go into detail and say, oh, but where's this? Where's that? Where's this? Where's this? Where's that? So with the pitch deck, I know everything is there. Now, if you want to ask me a question, it has to be a very reasonable question. You can't just ask a question out of nowhere. You have to pick a specific question to say, okay, what's a value proposition for this?
Yeah.
Then we'll know it's either you don't read my pitch deck or you just
Well, you know
lazy.
what I find actually is that for people who are very confident confident public speakers and who understand the idea a lot and who sometimes don't know where they want to go with the presentation, I'm the same. I want to get a mood. Just give me a mood board.
Absolutely.
Give me four
It
images.
could go anywhere.
explain myself.
It could go anywhere. It's
You and I
the
are
biggest
both.
surprise.
You know what I mean? As we
Surprise
go,
and delight.
I'm surprised as you are. I don't know where this is going. But
Surprise and delight.
Oh, wow, guys.
Okay. Creator first campaigns or client-led briefs?
I'm going to say client-led briefs, and let me tell you why. Because, I mean, we engage influencers because there are business objectives, right? There's business growth that needs to be driven, and all of that has to come from clients because they understand what it is that needs to be done.
Yes,
A creator can come and create something beautiful, but if it doesn't move the needle, or if that's not what I need as a business, then
Yeah, I mean, the
I mean,
KPI needs to be still be there.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm
Well,
on the other side. I'm gonna agree. Listen, I'm on the other side, right? I believe more on the creator side because now you get to see the creator reaching their full potential. You get to reach a specific influencer. So it's not just a campaign that is generic where it's for everyone. So you have to specifically pick a certain creator who can go into that specific brief and can deliver the message. So you don't have to modify a lot of their types of content that they do. You have to pick to say, okay, if you do vlogs, the vlogs that are happening in the hood, do that type of campaign for us. So I believe in more on the creator side than the business side.
And we'll dive into it as we have our conversation this afternoon, because I think that is so interesting, because I, being a business owner myself, so I understand what you mean when you say, this is what I want to do.
Yeah.
And you have to help me, do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
But on the other side, being a creator, I know what it feels like when you get a brand and you go,
Absolutely.
this is what I'm meant for. This is what I really, really want to do. So this is interesting. I hope we can find something that you guys will agree on during the course of this conversation. Okay, so do you believe in taking a risk? Or do we stick to the brand CI?
I believe in taking a risk.
Okay.
I'm a risk taker. I break the mold. I hate anything that does not break risks. That does not break the mold. I'm a risk taker.
Risk taker. Bongani?
I think we'll agree on this.
Oh, yeah, finally. Look at that, ladies and gentlemen.
So listen, whenever I introduce myself, I always say, my name is Bongani, the proudest South African guy, a risk taker. Yeah,
Absolutely.
That's always me. I'm always taking risks. I believe in risk more than anything.
Yeah.
So that one, I am.
So put on your marketing professional hats for a second and tell me. Now you're speaking on behalf of the brand, eh?
Oh, yeah, cool.
Okay. Do you prefer to rewrite the brief or rewrite the budget?
That is a hectic.
Yeah. Let's use your recent experience with a very big blockbuster in South Africa. Did you have to rewrite the budget or rewrite the brief?
I'd rather rewrite the budget because I do not want to limit what we can do because of money, but also it just have to be real. Like we work with constraints of budget, so you have to sort of be real in what you can do, right? So if you're really restricted with the budget, then you obviously have to rewrite the brief, right, to suit the budget, right? But in an ideal world, I'd rather rewrite the budget and add more zeros, right? I'd add a lot more zeros so that everyone can be free and everyone can create, and we can all just come together and really put this concept or bring this concept to life. But rewrite the budget.
Yeah,
definitely.
I hope your bosses aren't
I'll
watching.
agree. No, he's rewriting the brief.
We've got back. Okay, you're rewriting the brief.
Rewrite the brief. It tends to be messy to rewrite the budget because there's a lot of back and forth. There's a lot of cutting down creators. There's a lot of cutting down of a lot of things that you don't want to do. However, when you rewrite the brief, at least you've got the potential of still getting the same creativity from your side. You're more in control of it than being in control of the budget. Because the budget gets messy.
So would you rather than have would you rather culture first or conversation first? So we've got a brand, we've got a deal, we need to put out content. Would you want culture first or
culture? I'm a huge advocate of culture. Yeah, I'm a big fan of Marcus Collins. He's one of the great marketing geniuses of this world, and he wrote a book called For the Culture, and he explains the importance of culture in getting people to make a decision. Right, influence is about how people take a decision or make a decision, and what influences that. So a lot of it is culture. So definitely culture.
I'm gonna take a gamble and say you agree.
Yeah.
Oh, yay! Look at that!
I have to agree. I think culture is the main driver. If you don't have culture in any brand or campaign, definitely you're losing what essence of human beings are. So I think culture,
absolutely.
So we've got consensus on 2 and somewhat of a bit of a disagreement on 4. So we're at 33% right now. Let's see if on the other side of this, we can get these two gentlemen to agree on a bit more than just culture. Welcome back to the Business of Influence podcast with me, Leroy Mark. I am still in studio with Sefiso and Bongani. We're trying to get them to agree on whether creator-led campaigns are the best ones to have, or should the client be one giving the brief. So, gentlemen, we've got a track record here that we agree on some things and we don't agree on some. But I think let's go back to a conversation we had while we we're doing the icebreaker, because you really have kicked out the questions I had prepared for us, because you really have jumped ahead. Bongani, you are a YouTuber, you run a creative agency, you are dealing with content creators on a daily basis, you are a content creator. Chat to me about the way that some of the content creators are struggling to
Yeah.
deal with briefs that are given to them by a client while still wanting to make bank.
Yeah. So I think the main thing, well, the first and foremost is that the brief comes out as a standard brief, right? It comes out as a brief for everyone and anyone who's on the campaign. So, for example, I don't want to mention brands, but you'll see like it's a campaign that says, oh, go to the shop, buy this product, and then get it to your friends or whatever. So it's always the same type of brief, right? And then now the content creator, when they started creating content, they didn't start creating content for that type of product. They were creating content for the fun of it, and that's how people were relating to them, right? So now, when they have to articulate the brief, now the client doesn't want to adjust to what the influencer wants. So that's where the gap becomes that how do I now help an influencer reach a gap to the client to say, okay, let's agree on a common census to say, this is what the influencer does, this is what the agency wants, this is what the client wants, right? But we need to find a common ground. And now the biggest problem is that you saw something when they were presenting their influencers, but you like that. But now when it's time to execute, you don't want to do what you don't want to do a campaign that's related to what the influencer was doing at the beginning. So now you want to change that and make it your own. However, that's not how things work. And sometimes brands think that they understand influencers until it comes to them to say, I see what you're doing. I like what you're doing. Okay, let's work. But when it's time for us to work, you don't want to now compromise and say, okay, listen to what the influencer wants. Listen to what the influencer can do, right?
Yeah.
And now when the influencer starts speaking, you feel like, this influencer is being difficult. Let's move on to the next one.
But the influencer knows their work best, Fiso. So I know that you as a brand custodian, as a company, as an agency, you've got your KPIs, and yet you also want to make sure that the content that is being churned out for whatever campaign it is, for whatever experience it is still authentic. How do you balance the two? Because as you said, I've got to move the needle and the needle needs to be moved.
So I've got a system that I have with my clients, right? I do not even go to the creators until we've reached a consensus of what it is that you require from the client, right? I mean, from the creators. So if they want the static thing and they can't be agile, they can't be flexible, I interrogate, I fight with my clients before I even go to the creators because I know the kind of work that I want to create with my creators, right? So by the time I get to my creators, then they have that flexibility, then they're agile, then they can actually do the work that we hired them to do. Because I mean, the job of influence is about being authentic, right? And being resonating with your community. So if you can't give the influencer the platform to do that and to do that to the best of their capability, then what are we doing, right? So the thing is, it's just that you just need to give them sort of a framework to work around because again, I also have my KPIs, I also have my objectives, right? And I chose you for a reason because I know that you're capable of ensuring that I reach those KPIs, right? So it's just balancing the two.
We've had a difficulty in that when you find a content creator, let's say it was Fiso, for instance, let's say you are an automotive or say a culinary influencer. And when you do your content, you are funny, you are engaging, we see personality, we really, this is so fun. I love watching your content. The moment you put a brief in front of you, you become stoic, you become rigid, you become prepared, you become almost rehearsed, and is this a function of not having content creators in the room when we're creating those briefs, where the briefs are not creator-led, but led by the brief from business?
I don't know, man. I just think because it's a pattern now, so influencers have an expectation of how they're supposed to do their content, right? Because they also have a responsibility to interrogate briefs, right? You don't just accept a brief, interrogate it.
I need this brief.
I know, but like if this is your 9 to 5, if this is your profession, then I'd assume you'd want to take it seriously because at the end of the day, it's your name also on the line. It's not just my brand, but it's also your name on the line. So interrogate the brief, right? Because you also want to put your best foot forward so that this collaboration could be longer, you know what I mean? Because you are doing the things that need to be done. So I just think influencers also have the responsibility to just really interrogate the briefs, ensure that they put their best foot forward. Because what I see happening is that because they see how other influencers become so stoic, right? When they interpret briefs and they just change. So now they're thinking maybe that's the norm. That's how it should be done, and they're scared to ask questions. And that for me just defeats the purpose. Then you're not influencing.
But what happens what happens then from you stand with lots of creators, Bongani,
Yeah.
and you often have to go and pitch yourself to clients and what you're able to offer. How are you able to authentically say to a brand that you want to work with to say, listen, we want to be your agency, we want you to go out into the world through us, and still tell them that you might not get the brief that you bring out to us? Because the big thing about influencing and influencer marketing for me that's been very interesting is that brands are used to marketing budgets being like a shoestring, and influencer marketing budgets are even less. You have to almost like do like a 50-page pitch deck.
Yeah.
But so how do you balance it? Because at the end of the day, we know that creators know their business, right? And you know your business. And where do those marry?
So I think that's where mostly, and this is something maybe that's bad on the influencer side as well. Not a lot of influencers know that this is a business, right? They get to be popular, and then a brand starts approaching you, and that's where the gap becomes like, now there's not a sort of like a communication line that says, oh, now you're a business. Now you need to do things like this and this. This is your value proposition. This is how you go. This is how your marketing needs to go. This is how your budget needs to go. So a lot of influencers don't know those things. So that's where I come in as well, that just to assist them on how that goes. But then the biggest problem is that client doesn't know how to communicate with influencers as well. That you may say you can interrogate a client, but then from our side, we see it else. No, I can't integrate that client because they're going to think that I'm very problematic. The moment you're going to tell me, oh, the budget is this amount of money, and then I come to you, it's like, oh, here's my rate card. And then you're going to say, I'm going to blacklist this one. I'm never going to call them for a campaign. And over it happens. Yes, not all the brands do that, but it happens a lot. And that's what a lot of influencers are afraid of. So that business model needs to build. But however, it's going to be slow. That's where the creator economy needs to be built in South Africa. We need to have some form of a common standard, something that's similar that to say, when you're on the highway, when you put on hazards, it's not a common law that we all know.
But we all have an understanding.
But we all have an understanding. When I do hazards, what do I mean? I don't have to be the one in an accident to do hazards. But by law, we know.
But from whom must that come from, right? Does it come from you as a brand custodian, Sefiso, working on behalf of brand A, B, C, and D, saying, actually, this is what the rules will be, or must it come from the creators?
I think it's a bigger conversation. I think it's an industry conversation. And let me tell you why. We have shoestring budgets, especially for influencers, because I think the industry is still trying to figure out how to measure impact, right? How to measure conversion. Do you convert, right? Because at the end of the day, as I said, businesses have business objectives. There are marketing objectives, but then there are business objectives, right? And one has to feed into the other, right? So I think the problem now is a lot of influencers are seen to just be doing an awareness job, which we don't give a lot of revenue share towards, right? As opposed to a conversion job. But however, on the flip side, there are actually other influencers who actually do that. I mean, there was one creator who spoke about a body lotion.
Yeah, we know how. We all know
And the
how.
next day, it was sold out nationwide throughout all their stores, right?
But therein lies my point,
Yeah.
so that there was a creator who, it worked in reverse, right? Because she wasn't briefed in.
Yes,
she just
yes.
went and
yeah,
she...
it was organic.
Yeah,
it
was organic.
Authentic, yes.
But that's my point exactly. That had she said to you guys, I see you, I see you doing
Yes,
this. Whoa.
yes,
Let me wear my trick suit and
Yes.
go to department store A
Yes,
and get it, and you'll see, because she understands her brand, right? Where I don't know how you would have sold that to client if that was your whole idea,
Well,
where you go, master skin, guys, master skin, and they go, okay, it's so riska, but what is the, and then happened by accident again,
Yeah.
and I'm trying to, I think to your point where it's an industry-wide thing, how do we then sort of systematize it and put it down as like a principle?
We actually are working on metrics. I mean, I know a few industry bodies working on metrics to ensure that people are not they're not shortchanged, right? Creators go all out in terms of the the content that they create. I mean, I know people who do skits on TikTok, that looks like it took a whole production team and 3 months, and how they churn out that content. I mean, if you're going to use their platforms to advertise your brand, they need to be paid accordingly, right? So I'm one of those people that raise my hands to really just work on that, because on the flip side, I also am a content creator through other things that I do. So I understand the battle that we were currently faced with.
I think it's also like a tripartite alliance in that, us as content creators are increasingly, and I think it's a function of the millennial Gen Z aging, right? Where we're now in the industry, we're in the working world, we're in places where, at least from the millennial point of view, you're able to now make decisions, right? I mean, you're a head of a department, for instance. You own an agency. So you guys are decision makers and you're able to bring that experience. And you've also had the first mover advantage about being the first real content creators to make bank. You know what I mean? What's interesting to me is, how then do we talk about cultural authenticity? And I hate authenticity as a word because it uses the buzzword. But let's look at how brands have come in and tried. Like, my biggest bugbear, I'm going to preach a bit now, is I hate how we sit down and you'll get like on an ad or a piece of content to try and South Africanize something. They'll go, "Welcome to Mzansi." Right? No one says,
They
"I've
start
never."
dancing. Oh, they start dancing, right?
Yeah, and then,
Oh
and they go ish. They're not even getting more, because you can tell that this was like sort of looking at the whole cup, and it's like, let's just take the 2% on top. So how are brands making sure that they become culturally relevant without being a nuisance? Because when we see a brand on X or TikTok trying to be vibey, we go, "Chicken company, sit down."
And it's so lazy. It's so lazy. I mean, back in the day, they just used to throw the word Ayoba, and then that's South African, right? It's one of my biggest frustrations, because we've become very lazy as marketing professionals. I said this the other day on my LinkedIn, right? It's because we don't look at the fluid intersections of geography, of race, of class, of digital literacy, and all those things, right? And I think the best thing is to always just go back to basics. What is influence, right? And I always say this to my clients and to everyone that I engage with on the topic, is that if you grew up in the hood or have like an inkling of what happens in the hood, right? The one street, they all have the same curtain.
Yes. Bought from the same company.
Bought from the same company. Oh, they have the same tiles,
Yes.
right? Because next door neighbor's like, "Oh, this guy does have the best curtains," right? And obviously,
You go
also
buy them
can see
too.
that is influence, right? And for me, we've just lost that plot, because now you're trying to go to someone who hates cooking, for example, like myself, and then a cookware brand wants to come to me
Let's work.
because I've got such a huge platform,
Yeah.
and then
want that.
another one to advertise on a platform that I might have, because So I see a lot of annoying habits from marketing professionals, but also from creators as well. Because, as you said, so they'll just accept whatever it is. They'll put out the bare minimum, and it is what it is.
And we also make it comfortable that way.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. Now it's become a thing.
Yeah, just do what you can and get away.
Yeah.
So I think also on the creator side as well, right? I think brands are not willing to build, hey? Like, you find that a lot of brands just want whoever's trending. They're not willing to build with the creator. They're not willing to learn the culture of the creator. So I've seen there's some brands that I work with that I really love so deeply, is because of they introduce you to their system. They introduce you to their culture, what they want, what they are about as a company. And then from your side as well, you need to introduce your culture to them, to say, I remember at some point, it was a vehicle company, right? We were sitting in a boardroom with the CEO to say, this is us as influencers, this is what we do. And he was like, how many numbers? And it was like, there was a lot of creators in that room, I think 10 influencers. Someone was saying, 10 million. Someone was saying 5 million, 1 million. And you could see those numbers, they were shocking the CEO. And I was like, okay, this is something interesting. I never knew. That says to the CEO to say, okay, I think I'm willing to put more money into it. What am I getting from traditional radio and traditional TV? Compare those numbers to what the influencer. How can we build a bridge in between so that more budget can go into the influencer side, so that we don't see it as an underlying layer of influencers, just one of those playful things. It's actually a business on its own. That, for me, develops that culture of the creator economy to say, this guy's, it's a business model that's complete. You need to see more of the value into these creators. And then when we have more interactions, more brands start to build so that you don't just use whoever's trending.
Yeah.
Pick a creator that you know you want to build with and know what they are about. You guys will find a way. It's not like an overnight thing where you're gonna just find a creator and say, "Oh no, this creator aligns with our brand,"
Yeah.
and then let's take that creator. No, it needs to be a building thing so that we build and understand what you want as a brand and what I want as a creator. Align, and then we're good.
Wrapping up, gentlemen, I think we've just scratched the surface really of what can be done. Bonnie, you work with content creators on a daily basis, and you then have to sell their stories up to brands. And you yourself are an employer. You are a brand yourself. When you start looking at the next sort of 5 years in this industry, AI forbidding, the A and the I, where do you think the idea that creator-led campaigns will become more and more commonplace? Do you think it's a true statement? Are we, being a little exaggerated there? Where do you think the idea of collaborations from an ideation point of view will come from?
I love that question. Oh, it's so packed. I wish we had an hour again to continue with it. So I think whenever I look at that, right, I always look at it from the South African point of view and also an international point of view, right? You see now with the BETs, every hour that's happening, there's always a streamer, there's always a gamer, there's always some form of an influencer who's now tapping into that industry. Like you saw, Mr. Beast is now on Amazon. So everything that's on creator basis now, it's going on national. So it's moving away from just being a micro thing to be like an international thing. It's no longer just on our what you call small computers, small phones. It's becoming a national thing where everyone wants to be on a content creator space. So I think we have a bright future ahead. Forbid AI comes through and takes over our jobs. But then I think right now that's the next big thing, because if you check the trends in Nigeria right now, in Nigeria, what they're doing is that a lot of creators who are creating films, they're doing their movie screenings on YouTube, right? So they go dress up for attire. They don't need exactly full red carpet, everything, press releases and everything. So now they're premiering on YouTube. So meaning everything that's been created on those social media platforms is now growing. It's becoming its own industry and it's becoming the market leader in terms of the marketing space, right? So I think on the next 5 years, it's something to look out for, and the creator economy is going to be something big. Unfortunately, a lot of people are going to catch up late, whereas the system has already been built and running already. So I so wish a lot of people could jump in now so that we have more conversations like this, so that we get to unpack the problems before we go further, where it's too late now to even understand where did we go wrong, why budgets were not discussed, why were clients not specifically picking creators that are aligning to them. Because right now, everyone just wants to jump on an influencer. You want to get something out, just get an influencer who's got 1 million followers, just grab this and that. So now in future, that's going to be a very important thing, the culture. And also, I know we always throw this word around a lot, but relatability, they need to get, like, it's so clean. Like, we don't need to redefine the word relatability. And even though we overuse it, but in the next 5 years, I believe that's going to be the next commodity for me.
Sorry, you also just mentioned one thing that is very important. What you mentioned about Nollywood, right? And going on YouTube. That is a very big IP point, right? Because we find that a lot of creators now also don't own their own content when they start working with brands. So that whole move now is such a beautiful IP story for a lot of content.
And I think, as you said, we need to start learning more about the industry so that those
Absolutely.
things, when they pop up, you go, this is an intellectual property issue and we need to make sure we own our work.
Absolutely.
So you did amazing work with Shagai Lembe not so long ago. On episode 2 of season 2, with Kabai, my bee. You created an experience where people who were at the event, people who were not at the event, all saw what happened. We were being fed moment after moment after moment. And you won't discuss the budget with me publicly,
Yes, no, definitely
but you
not.
will share the number with me privately. And then I'll come back next week and tell you about it. But just from an experiences point of view, you at the Experiences Hub Shagai Lembe is a microcosm of just the kind of work that you guys do. Very intentional, very captivating, but it was mind-boggling to me to think about how you ideated that, how you put that together, and how those objectives are. When you start looking at those big experiences that resonate so much with people, and people at the center of it, what was in your opinion, the magic that should be replicated when we start looking at content going forward and working in those kind of spaces?
I think for me, more than anything, I should preface this by saying that I'm a creative, right? Anything that is mediocre, or anything that does not speak to creativity bores me, right? And I know it bores a lot of other people, right? So when you receive the brief, that's one of the most exciting briefs that I received, because I could then practice or show off my creative muscle. And then came up with a concept called, it was meant to be the coronation, but due to the fact that we can't use the coronation unless it's a real coronation,
Yeah.
then it was sort of like the king
And there's a
returns.
family in Europe
Yeah,
that uses it every now and then.
It was about the king returns, right?
Yeah.
The king being a metaphor, the king being the show, right?
Yeah.
Returning as season 2, right? But also the king returns because in season 2, the king
comes through,
throne,
yes.
right? So it's that metaphor. Then from that concept on, then we build that concept, like, how does that look like? How would you envision a coronation where you're welcoming a king, right? And what are the touch points? But also from a South African authentic, no, I hate the word
My favorite
authentic.
A word.
But from a real South African authentic perspective. And to answer your question, I think we all just need to come up with concepts, even for our content, right? That speak to more than just what the brief says. Because the brief could have been like, okay, here's a brief.
Opening
Organize
night
an
and
event. We're not a catering company. We're not
Yeah.
a
Yeah. We don't make sausage rolls.
We don't make sausage rolls. We're not deco. What do they call them?
Yeah.
The ones that you feel-
Siswe deco.
Yeah, Siswe deco. No, we're not those people, right? So you have to create a concept. It has to be experiential, right? It has to create memories. It has to move people. You know, it has stirring performances, right? You don't always have to get a piano artist, right? Sorry.
No offense.
No, but for real, it was a lot of hard work, a great team, great stakeholders, multi-choice being one of the best partners, right, on this, right? So for me, it's just that, coming up with concepts, being creative, stretching yourself, applying yourself, you know, in ways that will communicate what it is that you're trying to say. So basically every single thing that we do, we're just trying to communicate, right? It's just me sitting here, it's me actually speaking, it's how I present myself to the world. We're actually communicating. So what message do you want people to resonate or to land? What message is it? You know, what is it that you're saying when you show up, when you do something, when your content is pops up on my feed, when I'm just sitting here, how I present myself to the world? What do I want people to say?
Yeah, and I think we'll say that you've done some great work. I think
Thank you.
we are very, very blessed to have creators and content minds like you and creative minds like you two gentlemen. I'm so privileged to be in your presence. Can we do this again?
Yeah, most definitely.
sure.
Cool.
Same place.
They've agreed next week to come by. And this is how we wrap up this episode of the Business of Influence podcast. Remember, like, share, comment, subscribe, share with your friends. Let everyone know that the Business of Influence is influencing how we make business work. My name is Daryl Mark, and I'll see you next time.
Are you listening? Damn.